Okay, this is the Frank Lisner trips reel. Trip number 1 I think we made together was to San Juan, Puerto Rico. Let's see what year this was. This is reel number 18A I'm taping now. It's a 200-foot reel, putting it on VHS. This is Sony video. It's the Americana Hotel right next to the airport and Air Force Base. They turned the Americana into a condominium recently, I heard. We could stand on our balcony. I took these movies of Air Force planes, fighter planes landing, touchdown landings. They'd touch down and they'd take right off again, practicing landings and takeoffs. This is February 1965. We took a vacation down to Puerto Rico with Sue and Don. Adrie and I were married 4 years at this point. I think it's February 1965. We were living in Cincinnati, of course, where the listeners are from. He's a young, upcoming attorney, workman's compensation cases, and I was a hotshot IBM salesman in Cincinnati, new business kind of territory. This is Morro Castle. We're visiting in San Juan in the harbor, scene of many battles and Spanish-American War scene, I believe. Cannons. They had dungeons there. Oh, there goes Madras pants. That was the craze that season. Knee socks and Madras pants, looking very dapper. Don standing up on the moat there, on the wall. There was a sunken ship in the harbor. All of a sudden, some helicopters came over unexpectedly. Reminded me that Jimmy was stationed at an Air Force base for several years in Puerto Rico with Helene, and I think Sherry Lynn was actually born in Puerto Rico. Was she not, Jim? Okay, we took a trip on Carib Airlines. This was a DC-3 to St. Thomas, an unbelievably old plane with terrible service. You had reservations, but the reservations meant nothing because you still had to wait in line and you weren't sure you were going to get a flight there or back. And there was a lot of commotion getting to St. Thomas, even though it was a reserved ticket. We were up on a hill. We took a tour of the area. We're up on a hill overlooking this beautiful, beautiful country. Colors didn't turn out very well, but the scenery was gorgeous. St. Thomas is really God's country. Here's where it actually slides off the side of the earth. Little joke there, a little Frank humor there with the camera action. Blackbeard's Bay. This was pirate country. This is Blackbeard's Castle. He had a stronghold during pirate days. A lot of scenery and history in the Virgin Islands. They're actually property of the Dutch. The Americans bought them from the Dutch, and there's some treaty that says they must remain duty-free ports. So shopping was excellent there. The whole town was a duty-free port. Perfumes and booze, and there were different restrictions coming back into the States, into Miami from the Virgin Islands. St. Thomas is part of the Virgin Islands. Than there were from other parts of the world, I think, where an American could only bring in 1 quart of liquor. From the Virgin Islands, you could bring in 5 quarts, and everything was tripled or quadrupled in terms of duty-free items, perfumes and jewelry, etc. We're back in the Americana Hotel. That was just a day trip to St. Thomas. On our balconies again, watching the planes land below us. Had a wonderful 3 days. Don and I did some nightclub antics. As I recall, Don, we had a who can top this with our glasses at some nightclub. Flamenco dancers, as I recall. Wonderful, wonderful evening and times there. Here's our Pan Am flight back to Miami. And here we are landing back in Miami now. Well, we stopped at our original apartment, 6451 West Flagler Street. think we spent a couple days in Miami with friends or relatives. That was our one-bedroom, one-bath apartment before the camera days. There's Charlie and Leslie Fain. I don't know if we get a shot of Jill here. Adrie looks pregnant again. That was a shot of fishing. I must have cut that out. I took a 100% Club tour. Oh, this is where we met the listeners in London. We were living in Germany, so it's now 1970. Went over to London to tour England, and we thought Ireland. We actually missed Ireland because of the bad weather across the channel there, so we went to Scotland instead. We drove, Adrie and I drove from Germany and took the ferry boat from Ostend, Belgium to Dover, England. We were going to meet the listeners at like 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, and they had bad weather and fog, and they landed somewhere in Wales, I think, and about 10 hours later they arrived in London, and we finally picked them up. So Adrie and I toured around. We'd been to London before, but we toured around, drove around, and saw some different scenes. One took a ride on the Thames, Kew Gardens, walked around Piccadilly Circus. There's the bridges over the Thames. That might have been London Bridge. Westminster, Westminster Abbey. Oh, these are the famous statues near Westminster Abbey, Boudica. Looking across the river at some of the scenes. I'm not sure if that's Parliament or not. Oh, we may get some of the kids' scenes here. Oxford, England. No, we didn't get that. Used to have the kids do titles. Oh, we're in Oxford, England now? How can that be? Well, we must have, yeah, we picked the listeners up and then we drove to Oxford. That was our overnight stop. They were exhausted. So now we're touring the University of Oxford. There's Don. Stained glass windows. I think we're in the Oxford University Library right here. I didn't take movies, it was too dark, but on our way out of London we stopped at Winston Churchill's. That's Sue Lisner in the library. A map of the city of Oxford. This is our tour guide. Some beautiful, beautiful scenery around the city. Was this the, I think that's the wall that the students used to scale. They'd get drinking at night and then they'd climb this wall, and usually every year one student was killed climbing the wall. University Church in Oxford. Adrie looks like a student there carrying her books. No, this is what these students used to climb. They'd climb these pillars. Somehow they'd scale this very slippery wall, probably wedging themselves between the pillars, and someone would always get killed. Some more stained glass windows. I think that's the Duke of Marlborough in there, as I recall. Spring fever madness was when the students used to climb the walls. I think their plane landed in Ireland due to fog, so we missed some of the stuff we were going to do. Oh, this is Blenheim Palace. So we did. That's where we stopped. That's Winston Churchill's home. Yeah, he was born there. That's a statue, I think, of Winston Churchill as a young man. No, wrong. Now we're in Liverpool. Liverpool, England. We'll see some spires of the city. And I think you'll see some statues of the symbol of Liverpool, which is some bird rising out of the ashes type of symbolism. It isn't the phoenix, but something similar to that. Home of the Beatles, as I recall, right? The Liverpudlians. There's the bird symbol above the town hall, city hall. Various spires with this bird ready to take off. They had it on top of buildings, and I think it was down by the docks. Liverpool's a big dock city, port city. The Beatles got their start here. I think a couple of their fathers were dock workers.